Have you ever gotten into an argument and wondered how you got there? Yeah, it happens quite a bit with us neurodivergent, ADHD, or even literal thinkers. Sometimes people will ask questions that aren't really questions. They're laced with emotional energy, with shame, with guilt, embarrassment. They're meant to make you feel that way. And when you clock those questions, you're going to be a lot more grounded in your conversations. Today, I want to talk you through a specific communication pattern that causes a lot of confusion, especially for analytical and neurodivergent minds. We're going to talk about what setup questions are, how you can easily recognize them. Then we'll also talk about how they're likely used to create tension and conflict. And of course, I'll share one response that keeps you grounded and feeling aligned. Are you ready? Let's go. Hey, what's going on? My name is Coach Lee Hopkins. My pronouns are he, him, his, and you're listening to the Patterns of Possibility podcast, the podcast for late identified autistic adults who want real relationships without fake masks. Let's talk connection, clarity, and showing up as your authentic self. Now, these setup questions, a setup question defined for me. A setup question is an emotionally loaded question that someone asks when they're feeling something, but they don't know how to say it. Or maybe they don't know what that feeling is yet. Instead of saying how they feel, they'll ask you a question so that you will reveal your position first. That way, they can decide whether it's safe to share what's actually going on for them. Now, this usually happens when, one, they're unsure about how you'll react because they're trying to control the moment by getting you emotionally dysregulated so that you'll be at a disadvantage. Nasty, right? The second way is that, they're already emotionally activated. They're annoyed or feeling adversarial about something you've said, but they don't want to reveal it. They want to knock you off your guard so that you're emotionally dysregulated, so that you'll be at a disadvantage. Both nasty things. Now, it can be especially confusing for us who are thinking literally or just want to answer the question. We might get stumped by the emotional energy that comes in with it, something that feels like shame, that feels like guilt, that feels like embarrassment. A few examples. Are you really going to eat all that? Did you actually think that was going to work? These questions can be confusing because, yes, you did want to eat all that. That's why you got the entire bowl of cereal. Or, yes, you really did think that was going to work because you tried it, hoping that you were going to get the result that you were looking for. So if the answer is obviously yes, then what else is here with these questions? And if you're curious, naturally deeply curious, you can easily spiral into something wondering what they really meant. What did you do wrong? Can you fix it? And those questions, that curiosity doesn't serve you because you'll be emotionally dysregulated. And then you'll be at a disadvantage. You'll be disconnected from the person and inside of your head. So what worked for me is being able to identify when these set of questions are likely to show up, and then I could kind of look for them and read the situation. So these set of questions tend to show up in arguments or moments of tension because the person who is asking them is managing their own uncertainty. They don't know how you're going to respond. They don't know if you'll reject them. They don't know if they'll feel foolish or exposed by saying what they really think and feel. Imagine this. In response, instead of that question asking if you're going to eat all that, if they had made a statement about actually how they felt, exactly how they felt, I think that you are so greedy for eating all of that, they'd feel exposed. They don't want to do that. So they'll ask you a setup question. Instead of asking, did you think that would really work? They would say, ha, I knew it wouldn't work and you're an idiot. Really direct, judgmental, exposed on their part. And they don't want to be exposed. So they shift that emotional energy towards you to ask you a question so that they can attack your answer. And if you didn't notice that it was a setup, you'd walk right into it. You'd feel the frustration You'd feel the judgment that wasn't said. You'd feel the shame. You'd feel the guilt. You'd feel the embarrassment, and then you would respond to that. In response to the question about eating all that cereal, you'd probably respond like, I guess I'm going to. Why? Or, did you think that was going to work? I kind of, sort of, I don't know, maybe. Did you have a better idea? Can you see how those setup questions, when they land on you, invoking shame, guilt, and embarrassment, you respond to that. You respond with your own uncertainty about your intentions. So now that we know when setup questions are likely to be used, let's talk about the signs of recognizing when a setup question has shown up. And one of the clearest ways, easiest ways to recognize a setup question is if the question has already been answered. And what I mean by that is you already made a statement about something that you intend to do, your intentions, your feelings, whatever it is, and they respond with a question. You say something like, I really love the Twilight series. And then they respond with, you really like the Twilight series? Now, logically, that question makes no sense because you've already answered it. They are questioning your statement. They're questioning your statement. They feel some kind of way about it, but they're not saying it. But if you translate that question into a statement, something like, I don't like the Twilight series, and you shouldn't either. I'm confused about why you like it, and I think it's stupid. Or, quite plainly, I'm judging this, and I want to see how solid you are in your position. You could translate that question that they threw at you to any one of those. But instead of saying that, they ask you a question that pressures you to explain, to justify, or defend. And if you don't spot it, you'll be pulled into confusion, you'll be pulled into uncertainty, and maybe even an argument defending your position, questioning why you like what you like. If you find yourself explaining in detail, you have fallen for the setup question. If you found yourself justifying your preference, you have fallen for the setup question. If you are trying to persuade them to get them to like the thing that you like or to let you like the thing that you like, you have fallen for the setup question. And finally, if you are trying to prove that you are right about your facts and feelings, you're trying to prove that you're right about your feelings, then you have fallen for the setup question. When you find yourself doing any of those four things, recognize that you are trying to manage their reaction. Because maybe you felt something. Maybe you felt shame, guilt, or embarrassment by that question. So now you have to justify. Now you have to persuade. Now you have to manage their feelings about how they feel about you. But you don't have to do that. In a real connection, you don't have to do that. They just notice and accept. They are curious, or maybe they have their own feelings about it, but they don't poo-poo on your feelings. Nobody wants to be managed. It's exhausting when you enter that kind of space, especially if you're highly sensitive, especially if you are logical. So here's what you're going to do to stay more grounded when you encounter a setup question. The first thing you're going to do is answer the question directly, face value. I need you to strip away all that emotional energy that's coming from that question and throw it in the trash. If it feels adversarial, don't receive it that way. If it feels accusatory, don't receive it that way. If it feels dismissive or belittling, do not receive it that way. When you answer, you're simply going to answer the words without any emotion. Another thing I'll add here is that your response needs to be short, and this is for a reason. Because if you add words, the chances are you're going to explain, you're going to justify, you're going to try to persuade, and you don't want to do that. So just keep it short. Back to our example, are you really going to eat all that? Yes. Did you really think that was going to work? Yes. And if they come back with another question, really, did you think that was going to work? Double down. Treat your response as if you're answering the question simply because they missed it the first time. No explanation, no defense, no elaboration. And when you do this, you preserve your energy. You don't feed the nasty energy that you felt coming from that first setup question. You're essentially also giving off, I said what I said energy. Powerful. And the next thing you're going to do after you've answered their question is to stop talking. Don't say anything. Nothing. Observe. When you do this, you are demonstrating that you are holding your ground calmly. You are not to be dysregulated. You feel how you feel, and there's nothing else to justify. Observe how they respond to your confidence. They might actually open up and finally reveal how they feel. About your Twilight Saga, they might say, well, I just don't get why some people like it. Or, it annoys me. And so begins the real conversation. Because, oh, look, they made it about them because it was always about them. They had feelings about you expressing your feelings. So there's no need to defend yourself. Just answer the question and allow them space to share what they're really feeling. Go you. You protected yourself in the situation where you could have felt emotionally drained, and you made a space for your friend to actually share how they really feel. Because for some reason, they may have been afraid that they were going to be judged or shamed just like they were about to do to you. If you like this kind of stuff, I teach these skills. We can do a one-on-one session. If you'd like to work with me and learn more about how to feel more empowered in conversations and connections, hop on a one-on-one call with me. Go to patternsofpossibility.com and look for my link to schedule with me. We'll have a great time. We'll talk. My objective is always to give you one actionable step that you can take away. So if you learn something from this podcast episode, you will learn something from me from a one-on-one conversation that's personalized for your needs. Again, patternsofpossibility.com. All right, I'll see you next time. All right, let's wrap this up. If you've heard something today that has helped you see yourself in relationships a little differently, then I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can leave a comment here, or you can reach me at patternsofpossibility@gmail.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, if you could take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe, it really helps more people find these conversations and join our growing community. And speaking of community, if you're looking for a space where you can express yourself and be met with curiosity rather than rejection as a late diagnosed autistic adult, then come visit thepatternsofpossibility.com and find your community there. Learn more about what we're doing. We're connecting with others. You can be yourself and authenticity in this space. Find other people who've had your experiences, who know what you're going through, so you don't have to do this alone. Until next time, take care of your energy. And remember that connection starts when you allow yourself to be seen.